Playoffs is our final best of three of the day between Complexity and Archon. We'll determine who goes on to the Minsk Arena in Belarus for their shot, the $300,000 prize pool. I'm Lyrical, joined today by Trouf. Sir, how are you doing, and what are you looking forward to in this set?
10 seconds remaining.
Hello? Oh, goodness gracious.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
So what I think about this series.
Complexities turn to ban. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
Oh, it's fine. It's relatively early. I'm doing good. I fought through some ridiculous Black Friday traffic, but I'm back in one piece eventually. But yeah, a little bit of a different start here. Bans and pick. Doom first pick for Archon. But if they were watching the last series, I think right so they banned out the Wisp. I don't know if you touched on that at all, but a smart ban. I think that Complexity really played the Wisp well.
Yeah, definitely. I also want to mention that Complexity doing their homework a little bit here. They have banned on out the Alchemist. This was a hero that Archon Dota were really, really efficient with in all of their series in this playoffs. We saw out of Mu a very effective usage where he ended up leaving Greevil's Greed pretty consistently at one level and then going for early points in that stun and then picking up after, the sort of Medallion of Courage and Solar Crest, a Blink Dagger, and just running around the map, making kills happen and ganks happen. It was pretty ridiculous. So this time around, taking that away from them, it does leave open the Doom, as you mentioned, and now into Darkseer as well. A pretty strong opening, I feel like, for both squads.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Doom first pick. It's always good. There are certain ways to kind of deal with them. It's just pick up strong heroes left in the pool. So Darkseer, what's thought of as a pretty dang good counter against Doom is like that Ancient Apparition. Doesn't get any heal as a result of the Scorched Earth. It's strong in lane, deals quite good damage. Doom doesn't have much armor at all, and actually bully him out of lane quite effective if you have proper lane control. You're gonna go with an Undying. This is a hero that not only Complexity play well, as we saw with Z-Freak playing that, but Archon actually really love their Undying too. Archon really likes to pick up a lot of kind of get in your face here, similar to the draft that we saw from Complexity last time I saw them just to go play DC with the Tusk and Dying and stuff like that. Archon kind of draft similarly in that respect, so not only picking up the Undying for themselves, but also denying it from Archon, which I'm sure they would have wanted to take some time in this draft.
Well, here's something also that I find kind of interesting about this. Obviously, Darkseer, a really potent offlaner in his own right, but Undying, I feel like, is one of those heroes that can fluctuate between support or being played in that offlane position. And oftentimes, if you're going to be running a dual offlane with the Darkseer, you end up seeing something like, instead of the Undying, a Spearbreaker sometimes, or possibly a Night Stalker. Undying isn't a hero that I think you sort of normally think out in that role. Do you still think that this is going to be that Undying in a dual offlane with Darkseer, or might we see this as a supporter, even just sitting mid trying to trade hits with the opposing mid player?
He can do both. He's a really flexible hero. He can even stay in the safe lane if he wants to and kind of lay out the Doom. He has options. If it is played, and I think it will be with Darkseer and Undying being played by Z-Freak, I know, pointing out the obvious, they are brothers. They've laned with each other for years and years. They know how they think. So with that information, it's not crazy at all for me that Undying would lane with the Darkseer up in that top lane. But to answer your question, it's really Undying can go wherever he wants. He can even, like you said, harass mid. Okay, he can go bottom if he really feels like putting the Doom down. Tiny, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a mid Tiny. Archon really like to do that Mu on Tiny mid. Also, I'm not sold that Doom would be offlane. I know we were just assuming, at least I was assuming, where a lot of Dooms go, but I think Jo plays it in the safe lane more a lot for Archon, so I'm expecting that. And if that's the case, Darkseer and Undying would pretty potent off lane.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to mention here is that these teams did also play each other just 2 days ago in another best of three, where obviously because Archon are in the grand finals and they're there from the beginning, they were able to take out Complexity. It was a close series, a best of three that ended up getting
10
played,
seconds
and
remaining.
we ended up seeing a couple of sort of unique drafts. The second game was that
5
Alchemist, as I talked
seconds
about, but
remaining.
game one, Complexity ended up taking it with Brew in the off lane, and then a combination of Shadow Fiend, Wisp in the mid lane,
Reserve
and just
time.
having enough sustain to steamroll on through the lineup
Dire
Complexity in
team
that one.
ban.
And then game three was actually another mid tiny that ended up really being able to snowball a bit out of control in that series. So that you're right, they might end up wanting to go back a bit for what works, and obviously these teams play together all the time. So, well, I think I saw in the
10
interview
seconds
that
remaining.
was saying they scrimmed with quite a bit. So they have a lot of
Complexities
different
turn to
possibilities and how that might turn out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really curious to see how the Tiny does. Like, if they know that they pick up Tiny and it's mid a lot, you can abuse that fact and just... I mean, there's so many
10
different heroes that
seconds
will
remaining.
crush a Tiny mid. One. That being said, this
5
metagame right now is
seconds
shifting a
remaining.
lot towards, as we saw at the majors, if people were watching. A lot of, not really dual lane mids, but
Reserve
just a
time.
ton of support from a very strong, support helping out that mid laner. Like Bane is just example of that. So it's never really going to be just Tiny versus Ed. It's going to be a Tiny with help from like Winter Wyvern, who would be a good pick here for Archon. Winter Wyvern, Bane, something like that, which actually gets banned out. So I think Tiny might have a hard time, but he's going to get a lot of farm, and I know Moo's comfortable in this.
I mean, if we did end up seeing the Undying there in the mid lane also, well, you can throw out decay stacks, and that lowers down the base damage of Tiny and a strength hero.
Dire team
I
pick.
also will mention that they talked about in the little post-game interview that they gave that occasionally they run the Tiny support also. Not commonly seen on the Dire side. I don't know if it completely and totally works. The sort of range and the angle at being able to pull the mid lane is slightly harder to get, but it is still a possibility, certainly. And considering they ended up banning out the IO themselves, even though they did have that first pick, it's worth noting that this is
10 seconds
somewhat of an
remaining.
interesting dynamic for Tiny. Might they end up going in a later stage for another hero that's going to
5 seconds remaining.
help bump up his attack speed? That's certainly a possibility. Gyrocopter is going to be the next picks for Complexity, and that sort of harks back to what you were saying earlier about wanting to pick heroes who are up in your face and fighting often. Gyrocopter kind of the king in the early game, particularly once he ends up getting that level 6. Big problem that he does end up facing, of course, is either one, not able to cast out his spells, a la a Doom being able to doom him, or simultaneously getting bursted, which is the other thing that Tiny's somewhat good at.
Yeah, the Gyrocopter and Darkseer combo is always really strong. Throw a Tombstone mix. This is pretty like
10
standard
seconds
draft here
remaining.
from Complexity. And again, going back to, it's a small point, but I think it's a
5
noting that
seconds
this is
remaining.
Ziz's most comfortable hero, and I think he plays it quite well. And the fact that they're,
Reserve
he's
time.
standing in for Chessie, and did a job in the last series too, as he nice Chaos Knight. But it's just a small point worth noting. But they're gonna go with that for him. They still need another support, and they need another mid as well. Keep saying the Lina just because I know Limp plays a really, really good Lina. And despite the fact that it is probably going to be some kind of support, whether it's Dazzle or something else helping out Tiny mid, assuming that Tiny does go mid, I still think a ranged hero like Lina is really strong because he's got an extra range. Attacks from very, very far away. I mentioned, and there's the Ancient Apparition.
Dire
But
team pick.
going just quickly on the Lina point, his Dragon Slave is also just a ton of grass that's hard to deal with because it's relatively low mana cost. The ratio of how much mana Lina starts out with, so we'll see if that's what they go for the last.
Certainly could be a possibility there, and Lina probably, I think no matter, say the past 3 patches probably is when she's really sort of risen
10
to prominence as
seconds
one of the marquee mid players or mid heroes in terms of what she's able to do up
5
there with the Queen of
seconds
Pain, of
remaining.
course, in terms of how effective dominate a lane. And considering how spammable Dragon
Reserve
Slave is,
time.
particularly once you end up getting that first bottle, it's just great against any melee hero. And with already 2 cores here on the Doom and the Tiny, they are pretty tanky. So if you end up picking Alina, you might not be able to full to zero them in your little Yule Scepter combo, but it's definitely still going to be another great way to deal with Tiny in the late game or Doom in the late game. Be able to throw out a maybe Aghanim Scepter, Laguna Blade, or if they want to go for that eventual refresher. That's another possibility and a way to kill off the Tiny without having to get into melee range and really deal with that craggy exterior, which can be a big problem. So I like that. I'm
10
also
seconds
curious to see
remaining.
how Archon are going to draft to deal with the Undying Tombstone. Right now, they only do have the one ranged hero, which problem.
Yeah, ooh, Shadow Shaman. And they banned out the Huskar, too.
Turn to ban.
Too. There's also always, and I don't think that they will, but Ursa. Ursa's pretty fun. Takes, like, no damage when you pop that ulti, so you can just... See, they got one more pick. Shadow Shaman, presumably a support. I doubt it'll be something like a core mid, although I do love running the Shadow Shaman mid. He's actually got really high base damage, but... Yeah, just there seems to be a trend of a lot of just really strong team fight heroes. Shadow Shaman's not like a team fight hero with his other spells, except his ultimate, but his ultimate's pretty damn good when it's just in the fight. And also I've been seeing kind of a trend of just no stuns. Archon has some, but Complexities, even in the series we just cast of them, rarely drafted any stuns. And right now they have base hero. I guess if you want to count the vacuum as a stun, but I don't really count that. It's just a lot of strong abilities, but no real stuns. So they're kind of banking on the fact that the other team will fight into you. I don't think that they will pick an anti-mage, but when you have this kind of lineup in front of you that, like, oh, they want a 5-man, oh, they'll fight. Typically, you don't want to say, well, let's just try to fight fire with fire and let's 5-man them. Because usually, if they have that idea in their minds, like, we want a 5-man, they're going to pick the best 5-man lineup. So the next best thing dodge them and did they just miss a raid?
Yeah, they just missed a ban right there.
Yeah.
See, running out of time at the end of it, so...
Some ice mind games?
Maybe a little bit there. Hopefully they think that Archon aren't going to realize they didn't end up banning anything, but...
They've eaten through a lot of time in their last series.
10 seconds remaining.
Try to think about every possibility and... anything yet.
Definitely.
Remaining.
So, that's somewhat interesting. Let me just check to make sure that we end up, like, disconnecting on somebody. No, we're all good. So Lina is going to be the last ban, so not going to be giving that to them. Big sort of mid heroes that are left at this point. You do still have the Wind Ranger. Viper has already been banned out as well if they wanted to go something like Razor. I also want to bring back the point you said there about fighting into the Shadow Shaman and Ancient Apparition. I feel like are heroes that are both very objective based in terms of you throw on out an Ice Blast and you're able to sort of isolate, control what ends up happening in that whole area there. If you hit on it, that means that everybody from Archon's going to have to back on out. And likewise for Complexity, if you drop down Snake Wards, you sort of all have to back out there as well. And I'm wondering now how these spells are going to be committed, and that might end up really sort of determining if you're going to be able to take the objectives or not.
Well, with Ancient Apparition's Ice Blast, you're not nearly as committed to fight as you are with Shadow Shaman, just because the cooldown is just so much less. Ancient Apparition ult. But
10 seconds
yeah, with the Dragon I picked up, this is like Complexity right before TI5, where they were really into these 5-man death ball lineups. Back then they got a Furion, and actually the 5th pick here for Archon is going to be the Bat Rider, so it will be offlane Bat Rider, probably something like Dazzle to help out the tiny mid, and then Ross to do top, I presume, which is actually kind of a nice lane now that you think about it.
Yeah.
Against Darkseer, because you can stop him from surging away with the long duration shackles. But I do presume that the Undying will be up there to help him out.
Certainly. Well, time will tell in terms of what we actually end up seeing. I do agree that that seems to be probably the best combination of lanes there. And Doom, the big problem with this hero is, well, one is that you've got the armor problem, but the second is that if you do want to be able to catch up to somebody, if they have any form of, escapability like the Darkseer Surge or potentially a Blink Dagger, he can't really run them down. So I think that, like you mentioned there, if you're able to sort of last throughout the duration of a surge away with those shackles, you can definitely get a kill in this offlane in what is usually thought of as a not easily killable Darkseer. So we'll do a quick little introduction of the players here, as I'm very much looking forward to this. The grand finals is about to start. Actually, it has already started. So Moo is going to be playing the Tiny for Archon. Jayo is going to be playing on that Doom. We do have Whitebeard playing his Dazzle. Also going to be Fluff Stuff on the Shadow Shaman. And last but not least, Monkeys Forever on the Bat Riders. We do end up seeing a little bit of an infiltration of the jungle by Z-Freak over here.
Yeah, Z-Freak with an early TP. He's playing the Undying yet again. Swindlemelons on the Darkseer. Limp playing your Drag Knight. Handskin playing your Ancient Apparition. And then Zizzy standing in for Chessie is playing the Gyrocopter.
So a little bit of a block off here.
Oh, that's a cool ward, by the way. Look at that ward.
Yes, it's so
like
cool.
A cracker looking thing. I don't know.
little battle guy. It's awesome. I love him. He's like a
30
Roman
seconds
centurion
to
on the
battle.
ward. But they are going to be maybe battling down here. Speaking of some wars going on for this bottom rune, and it does look like instead, maybe at least for the time being, Archon are going to back on out and not contest this one. Just leave the Tiny up for the top rune, and the Dragon Knight likewise take it. So this is kind of an interesting matchup. Given that they banned on out the Lina, they are able to have another hero here in the Dragon Knight, or rather, Plexi didn't ban anything out.
The battle
Knowing that it's a
begins.
Tiny in the mid lane, they're able to take the Dragon Knight. What do you think about this matchup here in the mid lane, Dragon Knight versus Tiny?
I think they knew that they were going to have support here for the Tiny mid, whether it's the Dazzle or the Shadow Shaman. So they knew that just sending something that him is not really necessarily going to. Although it doesn't look like he can get support right now. Although Fluff and Stuff's running around, maybe he's looking at the ward first. Does have boots and 2 sentry wards on him, but yeah, I imagine Dazzle or someone's going to help him out. Jo looking to get a creep before he goes to his mid lane, or sorry, to his safe lane. And yeah, it will be kind of a 2-on-2. But it's basically, like, they knew that they're not going to crush him with one hero. Why not get something that's going to be a little bit better in our entire lineup, rather than something that doesn't synergize well with the push. Wind Ranger doesn't synergize well with their push sort of lineup as, say, a DK does, so a little bit more sense. But I really want to touch on quickly the point of this last pick Batrider, which I think is pretty genius. They're running this 5-man lineup, and what better way to stifle their someone off and kill them instantly? It was similar to what I talked about in the last series with, like, say you get like a random Pudge hook, and you separate one hero from the rest of their team, and then it's instantly a 4v5. Push lineups that instantly ends the push, and then if you end the push lineup, what else do you have to offer? So Batrider gets a really good start. I think that Archon's going to have a good time.
Absolutely. Well, and these teams know each other very well, so maybe having a bit of time to think about what this pick was going to be, knowing that Complex want to battle up against them. We do end up seeing a bit of change here as Whitebeard is going to move on up to top lane to try and help harass away Swindles a little bit, and still having a fairly decent time in the mid lane despite all of this. Tiny is currently top of the CS mark at 9-0 versus the 7-3 of Limp. I also want to touch on real quickly for Limp, Dragons, or the Breathe Fire ability, damage reduction 25% of base damage. That is going to be relatively relevant throughout the whole course of this game for Tiny, as we do end up seeing Batrider get first blood. Sorry, ended up missing that one. Very nice kill down on the Ancient Apparition. He's able to just stack on up several of those napalms and then run on over him with the Firefly.
Yeah, and he's actually kind of stuck here, but he's going to run through. If Sizz knew where he was running, he maybe could have killed him, but that's a big kill. Like, that really shouldn't happen. I know it's a Batrider, and Ancient Apparition really has no escape mechanisms, but that you need to know that going into the lane. So the fact that Monkey's Purple sniped that out, he is taking some damage. Z-Freak, he does have a Firefly up in 1 second. I think he should be fine. He's not using it, though. He's getting a little bit greedy with his Firefly usage. Does get out of there. So very nicely done. He's up to only 2 CS, but I mean, hey, he got first blood, so heal.
Totally, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And the other thing that this does is now forces the Undying out of the mid lane, so you're sort of in a bit of a more one-on-one matchup here with Limp versus the versus the Tiny here, and tossing out the Avalanche to keep away the DD Dragon Knight. No big problem at all. This does all force Monkeys back to base, but he's going to be able to pick on up his bottle and head on back there perfectly fine, happy as a clam. And with the camp still blocked, they're not going to be able to do any pulls, so he's going to get a bit more EXP here as well.
Yeah, they're not helping out. It's not this dual lane mid anymore, like you mentioned. As they were able to draw him away, this Tiny is going to get a lot of farm. And one of the weaknesses of Tiny, if you do run him in the mid lane, is that because he's got no armor, or he's got 1 armor now, he's very, very easy to bully out with typical mid heroes. But I guess the DD from Dragon Knight is certainly helping him bounce back in the CS department.
Oh, bottom
Well,
lane.
see.
This is the unfortunate, not quite able to hit the flame break, and now Monkeys is in a bit of trouble getting chased on over by the rocket as well. That's going to connect Creepwave here as well. He is definitely going to end up falling. So second blood going the way of Z-Freak on the Undying. He's finally able to take that one. 7 dewarded this camp, but being able to get a bit of a return kill, that might have the situation a little bit easier for them down bottom.
They did deward something in their own jungle, though, so Batrider is something that you need to look out for. Although they stacked it only once and they got Mud Golem, so that's pretty bad. So if you're thinking about getting some kind of bounce back gold for this Batrider, it's not really going to come as fast as you would hope. Swindle taking a little bit of damage, but he does search away. And he's up to level 4 at 4 minutes, and he's actually 4.5, almost up 5, so doing fine there. Limp doing a lot of damage to Moo. Have spells up, so he should be okay for the time being, but here comes Z-Freak. No tossing ready just yet, fluffing stuff. He's going to toss him backwards, in from the Dazzle, and there's a shackle on the Z-Freak. He actually might fall, and he does good rotations from the support crew of Team Archon.
Yeah, just diving a little bit deep there. Undying wanted to come on in and potentially be able to secure that kill, but really nice toss too. I thought that he was going to be able to get off the right click before that ended up happening, and now Moo, as he ends up running on back to base, is going to toss out one avalanche at the medium camp, soften that up for his buddy Mr. Batrider, and Fluff and Stuff is going to get some solo EXP here in the mid lane, which is really, really important and great for that Shadow Shaman. Getting up those level 6 quickly is going to make it all the easier. Also kind of an interesting build here by Zizzy. He's been able to take one more point in that homing missile, not going for the maximum farming build, and instead trying to be able to lay out a little bit more harassment against the enemy offlaner here, which did end up securing them a bit of an early kill. He might have been dead regardless of the missile, but I still like this pickup.
Yeah, you just kind of feel out the matchup and see if it is actually effective. I don't think there's anything wrong with leveling it up. It's not like some huge segment where you can't. But he is level 5.5 on Batrider. I think the same for this Darkseer. Yeah, they're pretty much even, although Darkseer has a lot of CS. He's got 21 CS. They weren't able to deny him very well up in the top lane, which is fortunate. Also is farming much better, not only with just pure CS, but also Devour Gold as well. So he's going to be off to a start faster than this Gyrocopter.
Well, they end up popping the ulti now. Limp trying to see if he could find Moo there, but able to get off the stun. Does end up surging him up. Now they're going to go on up here to try and take this regen rune, but Moo is going to get it after the avalanche toss to just get him to back on away from him a little bit. 6 heroes mid right now for each team, as we did even have for a second or two there the Doom roam on over, as he thought there was going to maybe an engagement, but really backs off for a little bit and fine and dandy. It's still just at this point in time Doom up at the top of the net worth, as you mentioned, with that Devour Gold, and Gyrocopter nipping at his heels, 2,600, just 300 gold behind him.
Well, at the very least, keeping the supports from Archon here in the mid lane and keeping them honest.
Top lane Doom committed now onto Swindles. They are going to get some TP rotations. He wants to be able to run him down. One more right click is going to be enough. He does end up going down after the Dragon Tail on top of Jo. Lim might be in trouble now with 3 heroes here. That's also another rotation from the Shadow Shaman. He's going to go down, able to get the Shallow Grave off last second. Tiny ends up picking off the Gyrocopter down in the bot lane. Moog just trying to get out of there. Z-Freak is chasing him with the Tombstone committed as well. Monkeys Forever does end up laying down. Don't worry, nobody saw. It's okay. Moose still survives, but a little bit embarrassing there. An 1,100 gold swing at the end of the day.
That zombie died. Oh, man. Unfortunate that the heal wasn't off cooldown yet for the Doom, and he actually did fall to one fortunately timed auto attack from Tower there, so at the very least they did get a rebuttal kill onto the Doom. The Dragon Knight did, but oof, that lasso though.
I mean, yeah, all right, lasso not great, but they do still get 3 kills out of it regardless, and much less on the Gyrocopter as well, who, you know, we talked about how he was doing relative to the Doom, now doubles the effective difference in net worth here, as Doom actually moves on up to 700 net worth above the Gyrocopter, so pretty good start so far for them. I feel like Archon have been able to make a couple of solid rotations to turn the tide of several ganks, and because of that, they've been able to, you know, take a little bit of a lead here in this game.
Dazzle also is pretty good, even though he hasn't been entire time, but he's pretty good against the Darkseer, as you just saw there. 2 creeps, Ion shelled up. Oh, the stun might come out on the Swindles. Can they toss him back? Oh, he couldn't get it in time. Here comes the TP support from Limp with the stun. We got a Doom coming out.
They also end up tossing on out the wall to try and dissuade them from moving any further forward. Everybody from Archon is really low. They also have this Tombstone down. End up graving himself, turning onto the Tombstone. Look at the turnaround here. Fluff and Stuff does end up going down to his own illusion. Z-Freak ends up falling in return as well. Doom getting the tick damage off on Undying as he finally does go down. And another kill for the Darkseer, as those illusions are still doing a massive amount of work. But Darkseer able to kill off Whitebeard, and now taking on out the tower, is going to be able to TP out of here. Jo staying alive at the last second. Homing missile will follow, but I don't think that that's going to be a kill. They end up getting the tower, but lose a couple for it, taking a couple on return as well.
Oh, he's looking for some kind of kill up here. These heroes are... Darkseer's extremely low. He's actually going to use a pot. If he can get a combo up onto the Ancient Apparition, he's just dead. And I think he might too.
We also have Whitebeard coming in as well, so they don't know that Swindles is still here. And with the Gyrocopter coming in, they also end up laying down the offensive weave. That's going to keep the rest of Complexity back for now. But a much more aggressive game than we saw in our last series. A lot more happening all across the map.
Yeah, I think Complexity think that they can 5-man and just bully Archon out of these engagements right now, but it's really hard to bully a Dazzle plus a Doom. They just live for so long in these fights. Doom also, I think for a while he had the Ice Armor creep. He doesn't anymore. He's found the better one, which is exactly just Aura creep. So now in fights, he's give a ton of damage to auto attacks from Tiny. I guess no one else really auto attacks, so. Ooh, got a missile on him.
But he does have one of those, and Limp's going to be able to get the DD run off the back of it, so that's a nice little component there, but still looking like they just want to try and farm up a little bit more on Archon. They have a couple of early engagements, don't want to push their luck too much further, but it feels like their lineup can definitely deal with things. I think probably up there, you mentioned the Dazzle playing really well. He was also able to finish off as actually Fluff and stuff, jumps on in, drops the wards on top of Hanskin. He's going to end up falling. They get the stun over there as well, though. Oh, Batrider also getting chased out of here by Zizzy. I think that they can farm on up these wards, though, as the rest of Archon ends up backing out.
Yeah, that's fine for Complexity. They did rotate their Dragonite, though, which sucks, but 1 for 1, and you got the wards down. At the end of the world, although Batrider does have his blink, and he hasn't used his lasso in that engagement, so it's a very, very early blink, considering he didn't really do all that many stacks, if any. It could catch the off guard with their mental timing of when this Batrider should have his blink. Could see a big play, and I think they're going to. Yeah, they are smoked right now with 3 members. Although it's not the Batrider who is. Oh, he's already sitting there.
Yeah, they're ready to go. And the other thing about this, I always talk about Gyrocopter and his needing a defensive support to help keep him alive. They're going to be able to lasso him right away. This is going to be a quick jump on in. A-Blast is going to connect onto 3.
Oh no, there's a flame break.
I think that they're going to actually be able to catch on out Hanskin here, and nobody else in the area. Top lane as well, we didn't see Doom take on out the Darkseer, so Ancient Apparition dies bottom, Darkseer dies top. Meanwhile, Limp and Z-Freak are in the mid lane, trying to do whatever they can, but they're not going to be able to get the tower. Archon are just looking so good this game, really crisp on their rotations, making good calls, 5,000 net worth lead as well as 4,000 experience.
Were you able to catch the Darkseer kill as well?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, was it him by himself, or?
I think that it was just Doom by himself.
He can easily do it. He's got drums, he's got ult, he's got the critical strike as well, so he could easily take him out. That was a really weird AA blast by Hanskin. Like, completely revealed himself. His TP wasn't even off cooldown. It was on like another 30 seconds. So just kind of giving away a free one there, which should have just gone for. Well, it ended up being a 2 and then a 3 because Darkseer and AA both fed, so very, very good exchange there for Archon.
Alright, this is going to be a bit awkward here. We have a 4-man smoke out of Archon as well as a 3-man smoke out of Complexity. They find New at the beginning, think that that's all that's going to be, but you're about to have a Shallow Grave keeping him alive, the call down on top of absolutely everybody, and they just end up TPing out of there. I think that Tiny might be dead with the debuff. It does go down to the Ancient Apparition in Fountain, but meanwhile, Archon are just going to say, you know what, take the kill, we're backing on out, we're perfectly fine. They drop the wall. Monkeys Forever is actually caught on the wrong side, but they might think about reinitiating here. Z's ends up getting slowed on down by the poison. Jo is here as well. That's going to end up being a Doom committed in 2 seconds. Is going to be able to not quite have enough mana, and they trade 1 for 1 at this point. Maybe going to be able to take out Z-Freak as well, as he is not at all with his team. Fight recap so far is going to be a 400 gold swing into the favor of Complexity, but it looks like the Undying will finally fall to the Doom as well, and Archon just looking good.
They're very good at rotations, but then again, what do you expect when you're diving tier 3s at minute 13 and your wall is not being used with your vacuum? I don't know what that wall was. It was just a really, really frank bad dive from Complexity. They were just assuming no one's going to run. Nice AA blast into the pit. If they can heal up afterwards, though, they do have wards down. They should still be able to take this. There's a wall. They're obviously the ult was just used. They do have a lasso up onto Batriders. Be scary for Complexity. Oh, Whitebeard can take it out first.
Pretty big gyrocopter ulti coming in. Whitebeard is dropping very low, but still staying alive. Tiny able to take out the Dragon Knight, and now what are Complexity going to be able to do? Whitebeard ends up graving himself. Moo is still in here. The wards are down. They're fighting to all of them. Doom ends up picking up the Aegis. Zizzy's going to end up falling. Moo got a double kill. Now Z-Freak soon to fall as well. There's going to be a nice A blast, applying debuff to absolutely everybody. I think that Moo dies here yet again, unless they're able to get off some type of grave on him. But
oh, he's fine.
Good.
He is fine.
Team wipe.
I think what Archon are saying in this game is you can't out 5-man a Dazzle and a Doom. These heroes are just the ancient apparition, like having the debuff on people. They're just too tanky, too hard to kill. Dooms went for this very heavy, like ats plus armor build with the Vlads and the drums. And normally I'm not a fan of it, but it works out very well with synergized with the rest of their lineup, with the Dazzle and the wards down. They're ready to fight Complexity's 5-man, and I think what the problem was Complexity was trying to do these aggressive engagements too early, and it all started up top with particularly the DK thinking is much stronger than he is. They don't have a mech on the team yet. Darkseer is still trying to complete that. The Undying has died a lot. He's very underleveled. Only the Ancient has actually got. But they think they're way stronger than the long way, or the short way, I should say.
Well, and it's something interesting because you always think about, you know, a Darkseer lineup, particularly with a Dragon Knight being able to fight really early and often. But you mentioned it, not having those key items, not having the sustainability that you see out of Archon. They don't have the mechanism up, and I think to me, always like one of the most important items whenever you're putting any type of push draft is the ability to sustain throughout it. And meanwhile, you have Dazzle, who has a maxed out Shadow Wave, 6-second cooldown on this heal. It's just incredibly powerful. And Fluff and Stuff, he's going to be able to drop wards now at any given point.
He has a blink on the Rasta too, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I didn't even see that. That is terrifying.
Really scary. Now they have added initiation onto the Batrider. I imagine, yep, Tiny, he went back for the blink or the drums. So not only they have team fight, they also have initiation, which is extremely scary. Because all Complexity have is that their initiation is pretty bad. They need like a blink dagger on this Dragon Knight. Without that, they're just a 5-man lineup that are 5-mans. So you have to change your game plan in the middle if you want to face here with. I really think they need some kind of initiation, particularly a blink on the Dragon Knight.
Also mention real quickly now that maybe one of the ways you end up being able to find your way back into this game is Kinks. And they just used their last smoke for another 3.5 minutes. Now you're going to see Limp get doomed up right away, jumping on out, being able to kill him. Monkeys Forever has isolated Zizzy from the rest of this lineup. Moo is falling a little bit low with the A-Blast. He is going to end up popping there, but now the Snake's down as well. There's 3 dead for Complexity, and it looks like maybe as well they're going to be able to find another one here. His Handskin's a little bit further away. Can Monkeys Forever actually burst him down here? I think that he does still drop with the napalm on top of him. Earn or no earn, everybody ended up getting killed. It's just too much to ask right here. They've got the ability to keep up with you as well with those blink daggers, initiation and follow-up initiation, counter initiation. Shadow Shaman has more net worth right now than the Dragon Knight.
Yeah, it's not good, and they're prioritizing their targets very, very well. The Tiny Avatos combo and then the Doom right afterwards. They know if they kill Dragon Knight, the fight's over. There's no farm whatsoever in the Gyro. There's no mech on the Dark. The levels are not there on their support, so their prioritization, if that's a word, or their priority on who to sound, and they're doing it, they're executing it well every time. But how couldn't they? Their initiation is just so much better. And it all trickles back to the fact that Monkeys Forever did very, very well in his lane. He was able to get a solo kill into their safe lane. Just kind of, you know, jump starts their success in this game.
Is thinking about trying to go on in there for the solo. I mean, Dizzy has 4 stacks of napalm on him right now. He needs to be a little bit careful, but as does Monkeys. They end up dropping on down the call down, able to just barely get out of the way slightly. Is he actually going to go down to this? Ends up getting burned, and he's able to walk away after 2 heroes. Oh man, that is so frustrating. Like, you're sort of just being baited along the whole time. You feel like you're going to be able to get that kill, and just not able to happen in the end. I also want to mention, Shadow Shaman has been playing incredibly well so far. Fluff and Stuff, dropping those snakes exactly when he needs to, not afraid to make it happen, as we do end up seeing Swindle getting chased around down here in the bottom lane. Lewis is here as well. That's going to end up being a kill on him as they end up fighting each other. Doom while you're hitting yourself. Wicked 6 streak right now, and everything's going right. Just everything.
Yep, it's It's gonna look like a pretty fast game, I think. And I don't think C around really. They just are not getting any farm. Oh, sorry, I have someone at my door.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all. I'll just keep on talking here about how cool these dudes are as they end up keeping on playing. There's the jump forward, able to catch onto him. Monkeys Forever trying to be able to pull Limp out of here. This is going to end up probably being a kill. A nice little gyrocopter ulti coming in, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to kill on off. Well, Whitebeard is going to fall now, despite the fact that he was doing a good job positioning himself. With Darkseer still dead, they don't have the ability to bring them back in with the jump forward. Moo is going to be able to lay on down the Avalanche, trying to run away yet again. Tombstone committed for this. Archon might be in a little bit of trouble now. Fluff and Stuff is going to end up falling. They do end up flame breaking back, but there's the vacuum onto Moo. Double kill right now for Handskins as 3 heroes are dead on Archon. Only 1 going down right now for Complexity. Really great job being able to extend that team fight, and I think that you're taking a look right now, 3,000 gold swing into their favor. In my eyes, at least, in that fight, you end up getting the A blast off twice. That's incredibly important. Also, even though they don't have the mechanism, the buckler is really, really great for upping their armor against this lineup. And maybe a little bit of a comeback here for Complexity, as we keep on seeing, you know, engagement after good engagement here, at least in that last one.
What happened? I leave for seconds and they actually win a team fight?
You know,
Explain to me this.
I think that all the Complexity fans right now in the world are asking you to leave the cast again, so that way it ends up happening. Oh,
there you
go. But no, it
but
was
what
just
happened?
it was I think what ended up happening was they picked off Dazzle at the start of it. Basically, you jumped on in with the Batrider, were able to pull forward the Dragonite, but they didn't have enough burst for him, and Doom was not up at that point to be able to take him out. So because of that, they just ended up being able to pick him off. But now down in the bottom lane, Swindles ends up getting Doomed on up. This time he is going to go down. The A blast is going to connect, but I think that they just sort of back on out at this point and take their losses.
All right, Darkseer doesn't have a mech yet at 21 minutes, and the Doom has phase boots, drums, Vlad's, and Shiva's guard. Just picked up a Shiva's. My God, is he going to be hard to kill? So I wonder if they could. No, they don't have a lineup that can pipe on their. Although it would be very, very good for our. So in fact, all of their damage is magical, right? No physical. But I don't see anyone being a pipe holder. There's a pause coming out, maybe to regroup themselves a little bit, but.
What a freaking crazy game, though. So this is something that I'm wondering about. In your estimation, do you think that this was a draft win or more of a... You think it was a draft win? It wasn't just a bad sort of decisions in-game by Complexity?
Well, I mean, it definitely was. That first blood really jump-started everything. But I do think that Archon's draft is just simply better. I think Doom and Dazzle together strong. It was also a great lane against Darkseer. Both of these heroes are good. One, you can devour the Ion Shelled creeps to kind of your lane positioning in the way that you want it. You can also heal. I saw a number of times the heal bomb coming out. Integrating. Oh, hold that thought. Initiation on to Zizzy right after the pause. Bad mannered. Call it what you will, but he will go down. That's the worst thing and worst feeling ever playing a game. Your mind's not really focused. You're just on pause, and then bam, you get an indicated on. Oh boy, it's gotta feel rough.
Bottom lane as well, Swindles ends up TPing in. Flamebreak is going to connect on him. I don't know if they find this kill. He does end up getting a lot of stacks on top of him, but I think he's going to be able to get out of there as Monkeys is going to eat an Ice Blast and just have to walk away off the back of that. But I don't think that they can chase right now. Like, this is the thing, is that Archon are able to have any initiation that they want, but also to a large extent any de-engage that they want. Once again, on making up words in this cast, but like, you know, Force Staffs and Blink Daggers, you end up being able to pick somebody off and then just walk away from this lineup. There isn't any catch right now for the rest of Complexity.
There isn't any catch, and you've seen multiple times where, because their only stun is Dragonite stun and last picked, and then the Darkseer Vacuum, which you're not really going to rely on to cancel TPs. I've seen a number of times of people just TPing away. Like, Grave TP is going to be extremely strong this game if it hasn't already.
Well, Moo now looks to be maybe building on into a Shadow Blade, something that we occasionally see. I will say it makes it somewhat more difficult. Like, you're able to inspire a lot more fear into the side of Complexity with this item, but it also means that you don't have the best ability to find like the perfect avalanche toss combo on somebody as you're trying to break high ground. But now that we see about it, actually he does have a blink dagger. What am I talking about? Yeah, Handskin's gonna go down. Okay, so that's a quick kill. Shadow Blade still picked up by Tiny and hasn't been revealed, so I guess all they really need right now is one solid pick off as somebody's farming to be able to get a kill. Game's pretty much over.
They really want to get this kill on the Tiny, following the whole way through. He does get glimmered and he actually blinks out, and all that chase is
Radiant's bottom tower
gone to pot.
is
They
under
really did
attack.
nothing with that. And in the meantime, you have Jo hitting the tower,
Radiant's
killing the tier 2 tower bottom.
has fallen.
And the cool thing is like, basically, Blink is paramount on Doom, but because they've got so much initiation, and at the same time, oh, hold that thought, Z-Freak, he's in some trouble. He is going to get lassoed, maybe dragged back to the clear, get a heal bomb. Nope, he just bombs just the two of them. He's actually going to glimmer himself. They do have a sentry. They see him for the time being. Fall.
God, it's just so difficult against us. They are going to be jumping on a Jo in just a second. Limp with the level 3 ulti is going to be here doing a good amount of damage to him. Doom is not yet committed at this
How
point in
tanky
time.
he is.
Oh, it has actually. Zizzy is doomed on up. There's going to be the Avatos combo. Might need to deny on out Zizzy if they're not careful. Nice blink away. Not going to be able to find that kill in. Oh god, they are going to just
fine,
be
I
able to
think. He's fine.
survive.
Radiant's
That was
bottom
close.
tower
30
is under
HP.
attack.
Yep, but it's great to see this lineup that Fluff has put together. Not only do they have tons of stuns, tons of team fight, they have like number of ways to pick people off. They have ways to push. That's a big thing right now in this metagame is finding heroes that can actually push high ground and hit them. And they have that through their support Shadow Shaman, the MVP of TI4 as we can call him. This hero was picked up all the time simply because of his ability to push and take Roshan with the Mass Serpent Wards. And he's almost got an axe on top of his blink and his glimmer. It's just a really, I really like this draft from Fluff. I think he did a good job putting this lineup together. And I'm wondering if, you said Archon and Complexity scrimmed each other a lot. I'm wondering if they ever busted out this Batrider, and I'm guessing no, because A, Swindle banned a hero, and they drafted it for themselves, and it's been doing great work, so something to think about.
Well, and maybe again, something to think about there is with that last ban, they might have been thinking about the Batrider if they have been scrimming together, but
Sure.
fortunately not able to make that happen. I do feel like there's definitely... I don't think that there is as big of a talent gap in between these two sides as this game would suggest. I think that Complexity are very capable of taking any game off of them. We saw just a couple of days ago that, they were able to push it to a best of 3 and almost win it several times. So I think that right now, if I'm Complexity, you start thinking about, all right, 1, what do we change up in the draft? 2, do we think I don't think they need to worry too much. Just try and, reconnect for the next one. That being said, the game's certainly throwable. We've seen bigger throws before in our world. And for the Complexity, not going to be able to make the most because they back on out away from the Roche pit.
Yep, as I've heard podcasters say, it's kind of surgical Archon's doing, and we're almost getting to the point where all 5 members of Archon are literally more farmed and have more net worth than all 5 members of Complexity. The only one that's not quite there is that poor little Dazzle. Got still a ton of farm. All he needs is, like, what, a Midas worth, basically, to get above the DK? Which, if they start wiping Complexity and Complexity GG out, we could possibly see.
No, totally.
A small little fantasy of mine.
See if it makes it happen. Fluff able to dodge away from the Ice Blast there. Not going to get hit by it, so unfortunately the main implement of counter pushing that Complexity have is not going to be able to be there in use. Tiny ends up taking on out the tower. BKB now completed on the... as Blinks on back, and...
That tower bumps him up. He needs 1 creep kill to be ahead of the Darkseer. So there's only 1 more hero he's got to get ahead of.
I think that's the new goal for this game for Archon.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Other things to think about. I mean, they do have Aegis right now. If they wanted to just walk on up there, they could probably... Tiny isn't necessarily the hero that you think most often at just like walking on up and eating away at towers in the same way that you sometimes see like a Shadow Fiend or even occasionally a Gyrocopter, but he definitely can do it. Trying to go back for his Aghanim Scepter point, still about 1,400 gold away from it. Doesn't look like he's going to push down this lane as the rest of Complexity is just sitting here waiting for them to find. I kind of like this positioning here by them.
By whom? The Complexity?
Yeah, if they think that they're going to be trying to take the tier 2 tower.
Well, unfortunately, Archon's kind of dodged that. Even though they're bounds ahead of Complexity, they're still respecting the fact that they have a Darkseer plus Gyrocopter and Ancient Apparition combo. It's a very, very scary combo that can't be neglected. The only problem is they don't have a blink on the Darkseer, who I'm assuming is going to get that as soon as he gets the 2250. But until then, the initiation to actually make that happen before a Batrider grabs you allies is very, very unlikely.
So what do you think about Aghanim Scepter? Not an item that we often see on Monkeys Forever, but do you think that that's something that could be worth it this game at all, or is that just sort of a... Is this going to be a BKB instead?
I think it's really how it works. It is actually effective, but I think actually action on to Moo.
They're going to be able to catch him. The call out's going to be there. But the Grave is there. They're all actually going to be here. This might end up being terrible for Complexities. They pull on out Zizzy as Doom was already committed onto him. Shadow Shaman Ward starting to deal a lot of damage to Swindles. They do end up getting the mechanism finally out. Still nobody has died in this extended team fight here as we end up getting one kill on the Gyrocopter. Now they're going to turn around, take on out Limp very shortly. Fluff getting graved, a second grave in this engagement. He is finally going to die, I believe, as Swindles just trying to get any last bit that he can, is going to end up falling there to the Moo, despite the Glimmer Cape, and now Handskin soon to fall as well. Triple kill for Moo, and a 4-man team wipe for the Shadow Shaman. Might not get his Ags, but they're probably going to win the game.
Yeah, it's not really your ideal situation to go fighting on their map when they're probably 20,000 gold, over 20,000 gold ahead with an Aegis onto the waiting on. It was probably like the worst possible way to go about it, but I mean they're down so much. They need to take whatever risks they can. They're taking the risk that, hey, maybe they're not sitting behind, they're not baiting him and get an Aegis and run something. But sometimes you got to make what looks like ridiculous plays. You got to take that small chance that maybe you get the kill just to get yourselves back into the. But obviously, Archon were ready for that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, currently Dazzle only 600 gold behind the Dragon Knight.
Glad you're watching it as much as I am. I'm glad you are.
Yeah, 25,000 net worth currently in the lead for Archon, as well as about that same amount in experience. Items that are coming out that can maybe save the day for Complexity. We need a Blink Dagger up on this Darkseer. He ended up going for the mechanism and probably will go back for it afterwards. I like the sort of value cloak there, trying to keep him alive as long as possible in these fights. I think that's pretty good here. Dragon Knight also has one of those, and Ancient Apparition is getting, despite the fact that he's died 8 times, is pretty close to an Aghanim Scepter. Is it ever worth it to sell one of your other items just to finish that off for the last definitive team fight?
Oh sure, yeah, I see people all the time, especially with Blink Daggers and stuff. What does he have that he could sell? Yeah, he could sell his urn, sell his magic wand. Hell, I've seen people get that very, very important item, but we'll see.
Darkseer is going to get chased. Or Firefly rather, was initiated there. They're going to be able to catch on out Swindles. Does he end up spending his mana in time, or his money in time? Actually, he's going to be able to turn this one back around as Monkeys Forever might be in a little bit of trouble. Does end up getting hit slightly. He's going to end up having the rocket follow him on top of the extra urn damage and just barely staying alive at this point. He's going to bottle through it. A blast coming in. Is it going to connect? He's blinking forward. No, not quite going to be there. And unfortunately, Complexity, Monkeys Forever gets out.
That was a potential 3-2-2 play turned into a space-created play.
Absolutely. And now, as we talked about, Blink Dagger up on the Darkseer for Dragon Knight, Drums, as well as the Blink Dagger. We do see a Sanjin Yasha almost completed on Zizzy. For the Undying Glimmer Cape, still pretty freaking poor right now. And Ancient Apparition hanging on to his items. There hasn't been any crazy push as of yet, and only 200 gold away from finishing off the Aghanim Scepter. So the pieces are there for maybe a bit of a comeback. I feel like Complexity probably can win one team fight, maybe, if they get the perfect station and everything, but it feels like they're going to need 3 or 4 of them before it really starts getting close again.
Well, they have Ags and 80 gold for Ancient Apparition. They got Blink on Darkseer. They have, I guess, SNY on Gyrocopter. That's not really an item to call home about, but action onto, there's a Forever playing with fire again.
It's going to go down. Gyrocopter gets the kill.
So that's 900 gold for your Gyro, and who better to have it than your one position? So keep doing stuff like that. You're letting the game, especially tracks yet. I said before they're giving respect to their lineup, but not much respect, honestly. I don't think they know exactly how far ahead they are.
With 4 heroes in the area for that kill, that was 2,400 gold swing.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of gold. It's a lot of gold going back their direction, and they have a lot of room to grow also. Dragon Knight hasn't committed to his next item as of yet, so 2,000 gold, and he's not the main damage dealer right now. Of course, that's still Zizzy on the Gyrocopter, so they're starting to become a little bit more potent. I mean, the net worth graph is still 25,000 into their favor, but as I mentioned, even with these pickoffs, they're going to need a lot of them to really get back into some form of relevancy. But they haven't committed any buybacks yet either. There aren't actually, the only buyback right now is on the Batrider for the side of the Dire. As Tiny just now picks up his AC.
One other point to think too is in these initiations, if there is a very good Darkseer back wall, keep in mind that because Doom did go for kind of like this aura build, and he still has that Pack-Leaders aura, it means if you get an illusion from him, you instantly get, you know, over 2,000 gold worth of net worth from the Vlads. You get whatever you want to trade it to for this Pack-Leaders aura. A lot of extras. I think you still get the Shiva's Guard aura too. These are a lot of effective tools you can instantly throw into your arsenal of teamfight if you get illusion from him. That's something you really have to be careful of. So, despite the fact that Complexity are in a massive, massive hole, the fact that Archon haven't really pressed their lead is maybe they'll still. I mean, they'll still probably win this game, but if there was a closer net worth, you got to be wary of Archon's ability to close out a game. Basically, what I'm trying to say.
Totally. No, it's something that's really relevant. The other thing to keep in mind here is a couple of these items, maybe not the most high utility, if that makes most sense here. Whitebeard is going to be ended up going for an Aghanim Scepter after the Force Staff, which I still think it's great in terms of what it does, but it's not often picked up for reasons. It's just sort of doubles down on what this hero often does, whereas maybe you end up going for something like a Solar Crest and you're able to apply some evasion now onto Mu as well. So I still think that, like you said, Archon are in a really great position to win this game, and all they really need to do is sort of group together and execute the strategy that they've been executing all game, except for the past 5 or 6 minutes. But again, it's...
They have everything they need. They have an Aegis, they have a Cheese, they have a Haste Rune onto the Batrider. You couldn't ask for anything more. Wards are thrown down. This is it for Archon, or this is it for Complexity. It's now or never, really. I don't think you're gonna have a better time to fight here for.
They end up tossing on out the wards, as you mentioned. They haven't yet jumped in at this point. You haven't even seen the Monkeys Forever jump in, and they're going to back out at this point, waiting for the next creep wave, potentially. Not the biggest deal in the world, but they have now expended wards, Scepter wards, that all just got farmed up, and they didn't end up taking the tier 3 tower, and now they're going to spread back out and start farming some more.
They're really taking their time. They don't have any into the base, so they don't have vision for the Batrider. But yeah, they're very, very careful about this. I'm wondering, again, their net worth lead is just accountable. It's just ridiculous. I still go to the point that in future games, if this is like, it's what, 25, almost 30k. If this was like 10k, which is already by itself a ridiculous lead, you gotta wonder if they even close. How are they gonna close it at 10k if they? I know that they're respecting it makes sense. They're respecting the back wall. They're playing very, very carefully, and you have to get that. But the longer this goes, the more potent these combo is going to get with with actual damage items onto the gyro, or an actual item onto the Dragonite. He did go for the blink, which he went for a long time ago. But so just a couple of points to put out there. They do have all the tools.
Well, Monkeys Forever is down here in the bottom lane, and fortunately, this is a hero that's died a couple of times now. He's going to blink back out and just sort of playing cat and mouse a little bit, but this A blast is going to come in. They're going to realize what's going on, and he needs to get the heck out of dodge real quickly. The stun is going to come down. There's the vacuum blowing up through a lot of trees, but he is actually just going to be able to walk away from this one and TP boots away. Oh man, that is so frustrating. With both of the Suns committed except for the homing missile out there from the gyrocopter, now they're a little bit out of position, and it looks like at this point Archon are going to be pushing on in the mid lane. Are we going to be able to see Complexity get back in time? TPs are immediately coming in. Snakes are down though, and now we end up seeing the tier 3 tower go down before the glyph can come out. Huge. Oh god, they've also going to be able to have this the weave sort of being in process throughout the whole course of this. Gyrocopter ultimate does end up coming down there. Jo is in the middle of everybody, drops down the Doom on top of Swindles. No vacuum at this point. Limp's going to get pulled out. The A Blast is going to connect. This is an A Blast with the Aghanim Scepter, but it only connects onto Mu. Guardian Greaves are now up on the Darkseer, who is probably going to... He did end up surviving throughout that Doom. Killed on off the Dragonite, and looking for more down here on this bottom racks as we do see Tiny just go to work. Mu is such a beast here, and this is what we were thinking was going to happen a little bit earlier. Maybe a possibility for a reinitiation. We did end up seeing the Tiny illusion do a lot to him, but
He craggied himself. That was kind of
tower is under attack.
craggy his own loot. But I think just kind of crumbled there mentally after that failed gank bottom. AA Blast wasn't up, ready to go. They glyphed at a kind of bad time. The call down was not synergized with anything whatsoever. In fact, it was on, I think, 2 KB targets. So racks are down. Maybe they can recoup and get their spells back up and try to fight for round 2. But wall is down for another 65. K form it'll actually be up. But the vac wall is really the big one.
The other thing is Doom is about to have a refresher in a second or two here. I mean, all across the board, just these items are, you're really starting to feel that net worth lead, which is currently up to 35,000. Also, you mentioned there as well the wall being down. Really great restraint here shown by Archon. They realize, all right, the big ultis are down. We're going to be able to Doom Darkseer. All right, we're taking mid-racks. No problem at all. And they go back down to bottom. The wall is committed. They back on out, wait for it to expire, and now they're going to smoke up and try and reinitiate down here in the bottom lane. Just all across the board, they've been playing exceptionally well, and really, we were sort of saying that maybe they're being a little bit too passive. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever works, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they were probably just either waiting for items, waiting for the time, giving Plexi a ton of respect. That courier had a ton of gold on it, by the way. The full refresher up for Jo, full BKB up for Moo. A BKB component's completed now for Monkeys Forever. They have everything they possibly want and more.
None of it.
And then they get weaved. They get weaved by an Ag Scepter Dazzle, so armor to go up into the like 60. Literally, I mean, Moo's up to 45 already.
Yeah, and he's going to be right in the middle of all of them. And there's going to be a heck of a lot of A-Blast coming on in. This is a lot of damage on top of all of Archon, but more being expended back the way of Complexities. The wall is down, but so are the snakes. There's going to be the dead Gyrocopter. Buyback immediately by the Darkseer. He has already committed a lot in this engagement, though. He doesn't have anything except for an Ion Shell to throw on out that direction. There's going to be another Limp maybe going down in a second or two. He's jumping into the middle of all of them. Very, very tanky in this engagement, but he talked about that armor. They are all still going to be wearing off now with the weave being down. Z-Freak dropping low. Tiny was able to kill the Dragonite. Swindles is now going down as well. There's Monkeys Forever in the middle of everything. GG, well played, ends up getting called as they're just too strong.
Watch the net worth.
Too much
Alright, they got
stain.
the racks. They got the racks. The net worth. Dazzle has more than everybody.
Yes, they did it.
Did it, Reddit.
Well, that was game 1 in this series. Archon Dota looking incredibly strong. You did mention, oh goodness, I just ended up disconnecting from. Okay, the game's over, everybody. Thank you guys again for watching very much. It was an absolute pleasure casting for you all. We are back on live now. Sorry about that one. I think that Twitch has been having a couple of problems recently, but regardless, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in a second with a game.